First thing that you'll do when you open up SketchUp is select the 3D printing in millimeters, and you will click on Start Using SketchUp. Notice that you have a pre-made box. You can rotate it around and select all, or navigate through all the different angles. Down on the bottom right you have your measurements, and we're going to be using that quite a bit when we draw. So we'll start off right away. That red line means that we are going across one of the axes, as does the green line. Notice that I'm typing in the measurements as I go to make sure that it's precise. Red line means that it's going across the axis, and same thing with the green. This tells me that these are parallel. So I have a base, and going up from the base, notice that that line was blue. That means it's going across the z-axis. And creating my third side, third face. Now notice I'm trying real hard to do this, but it's not working. If I spin it around, I realize that I made a mistake. I can easily select it, delete it, and go straight up from there, enter in the measurement of 30 millimeters, drop down and over. Finish off that side, spin it around to make it easy to see, and then finish off that face as well. Now it automatically closes in that box. You could make a translucent window going into the top of the box, or what we're going to do is select it and simply delete it. So rotating it around now, notice I have a right rectangular prism that has an open edge. Selecting the tape measure, I can just make sure that I have the right measurements for each one of them, and then I'll zoom in. And now the job here is trying to create an outer edge to kind of give some thickness when I put it into the Airwolf 3D printer. And in this case I've selected a 3 millimeter thick wall that will go around it. So I'm just coming out 3 millimeters on each one of the sides, trying to give it some definition. And don't be afraid to spin it around, take your time with it, like I've done here, and trying to make sure that it's perfect. So I know that 50 millimeters plus 3 millimeters on each side will give me 56. Now I've got my base, and from here I can get to one side, and it's fairly simple. Google Sketchup does a pretty good job of identifying the axis that you're on. So in here what I'm doing is I'm just cleaning up all the extra lines that are no longer necessary. So just one click and delete. So take that edge, extend it all the way out, 56 millimeters. Once you get 3 or 4 of the lines in, it'll automatically fill in that box for you. There. And snapped it in. Now, to get the top, I've deleted the top. Now what I'm doing is I'm going back in and creating rectangles going around each one of the edges. Because what I can do once I've got those edges is I can delete that middle piece and make it a hole. So I'm selecting the measurement of 3 millimeters by 26 millimeters, and then just locking in the rest of the pieces. Now notice those lines that are there that are extending out. What I can do is select, cut out the middle, then I'll spin it around and select and delete those extra pieces that are there. So 1, 2, there's the third, and there's the fourth. So I've got a nice clean right rectangular prism. The only problem is the base has not changed at all. It's a real thin piece. So what I can do is I can actually build down. So I'll use the rectangle, and in the dimensions I will actually change it to match the dimensions of the rest of the right rectangular prism. So instead of messing around with all the different measurements, You can just type them in, 26 millimeters by 3 millimeters, and it locks it right in. I'll spin it around to make it easier for the computer to identify. .56 by 3. We'll do it from the other side to make it a little easier for it to see. There we go. Sometimes it takes a little bit of playing with to figure it out, but notice that 2 of those sides are done. Zoom in, make it a little easier. Now from one corner to another, 26 by 3, and then I should be good getting that last 56 by 3 piece in there. And notice that once I do that, it actually fills it up into an enclosed prism. Now the problem is this is out of the space that the printer will be using. So what I need to do is I need to actually select it all and select it all, and then using the move function, move all of the pieces up. Pretty cool, you can float it around. So what I'll do is I'll move it up so that it's manageable and then spin it around. Wrong one, sorry. So move it back up and spin it around, and then simply clean it up by taking all those little pieces that are down there and deleting the ones that I don't need, so it'll make it look nice and clean. Making sure that you get all those pieces cleaned up so that when the printer sees it, all it sees is one nice bright rectangular prism that has a thickness all around the edges of 3 millimeters. No lines to mess with, just nice and clean. So you have a finished product. Zoom around, able to check it out. So I want to add dimensions, so I'll click on one and the next endpoint. If I bring it down, brings it out to 56 millimeters. This is just for you as a student or the teacher to be able to see what is it that I'm actually looking at. What are the actual dimensions that I see here? So if I go down to the tools, dimensions, can add in each of the dimensions, 56 by 26, and then by 33. So those are our outer dimensions that the Airwolf 3D printer should be giving to us as a final product, and what we're most concerned about are the interior dimensions. So we'll actually spin through and take a look at the interior dimensions as well, just to make sure, at least as much as we possibly can on the inside, that we're getting what we should be seeing as far as the finished product is concerned. So spin it up, easy to see, take the dimensions, okay, 50 millimeters, that's good, that's what we need. So we're looking for a 50 by 20 by 30. We've got our 50 by 20, and now just the height of the right rectangular prism, sure enough, is 30. So as long as the printer will listen to the dimensions that we've created, we should have an acceptable solution. And just off this side, I'll put in a type text. And the last thing that we'll need to do once we're done here is to be able to export this in a file that is capable of being printed. Check with your description on your product to make sure, but I'll be exporting this as an STL file. And once I press export, I should be good. I'll name it and save it and send it off to printing. Hopefully this tutorial helps out a little bit.